Typically, when we're doing photo editing in journalism, we should really only be doing simple edits that could occur in a darkroom. We can crop an image, we can adjust levels to improve color, exposure, and white balance, but we really shouldn't be doing much more than that. So the goal is to take a good photograph at the beginning with the correct elements and then use Photoshop to kind of fine tune it. So keep in mind that Photoshop cannot fix a bad image. So the first adjustment we're going to cover is how to improve the white balance. Many times when we take photographs in the gym, like we did here for the Veterans Assembly, the white balance might be off. So by using the adjustment levels in Photoshop, we can make some basic corrections. So if you notice in this picture, we have a yellow tint to it. We know that the floor is yellow, but it's a little bit more yellow than it needs to be. So what we're going to do is first go up to Image. We click on that, we go to Adjustments, and then we go to Levels. We're going to double click on Levels. And we want to make sure that sometimes when this pops up, that might be on the image, you can scoot this stuff over. We then want to go to the white eyedropper. So now we're going to set a sample for the white point within it, but first we want to double click, move the color picker over as well so we can kind of, again, see our image. Then we're going to go in, and the rocket word that's on the chair is probably a good place to start, up at the top of the O. So we're going to double click that. So if we notice here, it tells us that there's some kind of a tint of yellow to it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at our A and B channels. We're going to set these to 0. And so our current is now a gray. You want to hit OK. And then we're going to use the eyedropper again right on that same spot. And we're going to watch the color get corrected. Okay. So now our colors are corrected, and we want to kind of look at this to see how the input is with the white, not just the white balance, but also just with exposure. So what we can do is we're going to look at this histogram. So this is a histogram right here, and we can kind of see where the different levels are. We can see that there's not a lot here. We've got our different peaks and valleys. And so a properly exposed image should have peaks above the black and white triangles. So this is our black, our gray, and our white. So currently we don't have anything on the white. So what we're going to do is take our white over and move it into this peak and valley. So we can see that it's improved it a little bit. It's brightened it up a little bit more. What we can also do is we can go in and adjust by actual color levels. Depending on the image that you have, you could be working on the reds, you could be working on the blues, you could be working on the greens. In this one, we know that our reds are kind of important. So again, what we can do is we want to make sure that things are in those peaks and valleys. First, we're just going to kind of play with the white to see what we can do here. We're kind of looking, we know that this is maroon. That's a little bit redder. So I think those are probably good. So from there, if we wanted to try and play with some of the yellows, you're actually going to go, because you'll notice there is no yellow. So we go down to the blue. This is where the yellow is. And because again, I want to make a slight adjustment, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of play with this and take it over and see if it's too blue. But we know their jackets are blue. This is probably a more true color. So again, I took my white, I moved it over a little bit. We can kind of maybe take this gray and see what this does. Yeah, if you notice, the more we move the gray over, the bluer it gets and the weirder it gets. So we kind of want to keep that tone down. So I think this looks pretty close to the original. And then I'm going to click OK. So here we have our adjusted photo. And what we're going to do is we want to save it. So the way that we're going to save this, and the same way that you're going to save it for your assignment, is I'm going to go into File, Save As. I want to keep a JPEG. And with this image, because you're going to be doing it on your own, we don't need the image name. You're going to use your last name, white balance exposure, so the WBE, and then you click Save. And also you can see where you're going to save it to. So because I'm on this computer right now, I'm going to go ahead and save it in my folder for pictures. It's now giving me the option of the quality. We want to keep it a high quality. We want to keep it kind of standard. In the preview, if we wanted to look at it, click OK. And now we're good. The next task that I want you to be able to complete is to do a cutout. This is when the background is deleted or cut away from an object. Typically, this type of effect is used in features or alternative copy. Cutouts can require patience and precision, and a lot of times it's going to depend on what it is that you're trying to cut out. One thing that's important to think about is that if you know ahead of time that you're going to be cutting something out, it's definitely helpful to have a solid background. So a white background or even a green screen, if you have access to it, to make the editing a little bit easier. So for a fashion spread, each item was photographed on a piece of white butcher paper. And so here's the image of a basketball jersey that was used in the spread. To cut out the basketball jersey, the first thing you're going to do is go to the quick selection tool, which is over here. And once I click on it, I'm going to go directly to a corner of my object, and I'm going to start to drag. And as you notice, it kind of picks up on the white in the different areas. So what you need to do is slowly kind of take it across. I'm holding the button on the mouse while I do this. So when I notice it's trying to pick up things within the jersey, I can take care of it. Down here, we have a little bit of a challenge because Chicago is not giving enough of a contrast. The same issue's happening here with that Knicks logo. So what I'm able to do is I'm just taking my time, dragging it. I'm going to try and get as close to the edge as I can. Now, if I still have dancing ants, I want to get rid of those, just like I do around the Pacers. So then the other thing I'm noticing as I'm looking at this is I'm not still all the way over like I need to be. So again, I'm still holding it. And I can go to here and get this where it needs to be. Same with the top of this jersey and the neckline. I don't need that. Now down here where I kind of messed up a little bit, what I can do is I can hold the Alt key and I can try to bring some of this back in. So if you see what I'm doing, I'm holding the Alt key down and I'm trying to get a little bit closer. So once I have the dancing ants on this image, what I want to do is I want to create a new layer. So that's where we're going to go. So we want to create or refine it. So by double clicking this, I already have the checkerboard behind it and the image. Again, from here, I can look and see the marching ants, an overlay on black, on white, black and white, or the layers. So what I want to do is I want to use this layer image, because from here I can see where a couple different things need to be a little bit tweaked. So one thing you can do is, again, you want to do Control A to view it. So first we're going to go OK by going over to layers down here. So now that I'm in my layer, I can double click it and I can go in and I can try and make some of these refinements. So I'm over here, and I think what I want to do is I want to use the brush tool. There are some other options. We still have a quick selection. We have the refine edge tool. That's the one that you're going to be probably using more of when you have a person and there's hair and there's feathering. And again, those are things that we'll kind of worry about later on for a different tutorial. But today we're just kind of working on how we can refine the basic edge of a simpler image. So I still have the brush tool. Up here I have my brush sizes. So I have my options there. The plus means that it's adding to the mask, expands the detection area, and the minus means it restores it. So what I need to do is I need to get a little bit more of this masked. So I'm going to hold down my mouse, and I notice that with this brush size, it's probably pretty good. So I can just kind of do a quick fix there. Now, I'm not super happy with it, so I'm zooming in again. I didn't like it, so I'm going to do a Control Z. And now that I'm closer, I'm going to try and fill this in a little bit smoother. Okay, and that one's better. So now I'm going to move down to this other troubled area. And again, I like the size brush that I have. I feel like it's pretty close to what I was using before. I'm going to try and smooth this out. Now, as I'm fixing this edge, because I'm on the black and white, I don't know if I'm adding or making it better or worse. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is click back to the overlay. So what you can see is, because I didn't really have a good view of it, oh, I was adding more of the area that I wanted. So now what I can do, because I'm back in this pink, is I'll go ahead, I'm going to keep again that same brush size, but I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to try to come back in here and put some of that stuff back where I had it. So again, I'm holding Alt, and I'm taking my mouse across. Again, if you have a more delicate or intricate type of edge that you're working on, if you know that you're going to be putting this on a black background, you're probably going to want to go ahead and, instead of trying to use your computer, the desktop, and a mouse, I would recommend using the yoga tablet and the stylus, so you have a little bit more control over those points. So now the area that might be a little more challenging is where we have Chicago. But again, if I want, I can zoom in even more. Maybe I'm looking at this going, you know what? I'm going to increase my brush size a little bit, because I'm able to get all this in one swipe, which will make things a little bit easier. So I got that one point. That looks pretty good. Okay, come across again. That's pretty good. And I can smooth that out a little bit as well. Okay, things look good there. Okay, so here's a little spot that I wouldn't have noticed. So I'm going to hold the Alt key because I'm going to add some in. Okay, now I'm going to zoom out. I think things look pretty good. I'm going to click OK. So now I have it. And again, you'll see I have my layer, and then I have my image. So my image itself is still safe. It's the layer that I use to kind of make those different marks. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to File, Save As. Now this is the jersey, but again, for this project, I want to put my last name, cut out background, and then I'm not saving it as a Photoshop. I need to again make sure that I'm saving as a JPEG. It's going to go into my picture file, and I click Save. I tell it to go high. Again, I get the picture underneath so I can see exactly what I'm saving. Click OK, and we're all good.